Hello, my dearest pre-calculus students. We are now to continue on topic 14 of quarter 2, which is all about graphs of circular functions and situational problems. So we will continue what we have kanina. So we are to continue on graphs of cosecant and secant function. So for cosecant function, we know that cosecant is equal to cosecant x is equal to 1 over sine x. That is, sine x must not be equal to 0, because when sine x is equal to 0, the inverse of that, which is cosecant x, is undefined. So first, we observe that the domain of the cosecant function is all real number. X is an element of all real numbers, such that sine of x must not be equal to 0, or x is in a real number, wherein x must not be equal to k pi, wherein k must not is an integer. So when we say k pi, that would be 0 is multiple of pi. So 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, because if we are to recall the Cartesian plane in a unit circle, naa din hindapita sa 0, 2 pi, o pi, naa din hing apart ang sine r, the sine functions are zeros. So that is why mo undefined sila. So notice that in our illustration, ang 0, ang sine of 0 is 0, sine of pi is also 0, and sine of 2 pi is also 0. So that is why the cosecant there are undefined. Okay? So that means monis isang part din hino. Kani ang y-axis, then kani nga part, o kani nga part. So mo ni mga undefined diha ang cosecant. So meaning mo na atong gihimuan og broken line, because the graph of cosecant gets closer and closer to that line, meaning they are the asymptotes, the vertical asymptotes of the graphs. Okay? So in this case, when we are going to find sine of pi over 6, sine of pi over 6 in here, sine there is 1/2, so that is why the cosecant is 2. Then sine of pi over 2 is 1, so the cosecant there is 1 also, because the inverse of 1 is 1. Then 5 pi over 6, that is 1/2 and 2. Okay? Then negative 1/2 and negative 2, negative 1 and negative 1 and negative 2. We are going to refer here. Diba? And then the period are the same. In this case, we have the same period. Okay? Inverse naman sila. But the period is 2 pi. Okay? So that is why we graph here the sine of x, y equals sine of x. And mo na ni ang graph sa cosecant. Y equals cosecant x. Okay? So, papong rasilbi. So we could also sketch the graph directly from the graph of sine of x by observing the following facts. If sine of x is 1, so kung 1, ang cosecant 1 pod. Or negative 1. Negative 1, negative 1. Kung cosecant x is negative 1, so negative 1 pod ang sine x. Bali-bali na. At each x-intercept of y equals sine of x, y is cosecant is undefined. So notice that mao ni ang mga x-intercepts, di ba? So mao na si J undefined diha ang cosecant. Okay? But a vertical asymptote is formed because when sine x is close to 0, the value of cosecant x will have a big magnitude with the same sign as sine of x. Okay? So, atong stand ang atong graph. So, mo na ni si Jan. Okay? So, similarly, the graph of y equals secant x can be obtained from the graph of y equals cosine x. So, this will be the graphs. Kanina po, no? Okay? So, like the sine and cosecant function, the cosine and secant functions are also reciprocals of each other. Therefore, y equals secant x has domain, which is the set of all real numbers such that cosine na pod is not equal to 0. Because kung atong i-inverse na pod ang 0 nga cosine, mahimo na pong undefined ang secant. And this would be equal to x is the set of all real numbers such that x must not be equal to k pi over 2. So, k pi over 2 kay pi over 2 when k is 1, 3, 5, diba? Where k is odd integer. So, kaninga part, 0 man din hiya ang atong cosine. So, meaning, ang atong secant x becomes undefined. So, muni, i-graph na to ang atong cosine. Diba sa 0, 0 ang cosine. 1. Then, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2. Maano siya nga part nga ang atong cosine are zeros. Therefore, we can form the vertical asymptotes. And then, ipatong rapod na to upward, downwards, down ang atong secant x. Okay? Okay. Next is, we are going to sketch the graph of y equals 2 cosecant x over 2. Cosecant of x over 2. First thing to do is to graph the value of, or the graph of y equals sine of x over 2. So, kay di ba ang atong basihan, ang atong basis kay ang sine man, so mo to nga ato sang i-graph sine of 2 then 2 sine of x over 2. Okay, so let us recall that the amplitude here is 2, and then the period of this is ilang man 2 pi over b, or 1/2. So 2 pi over 1/2 is the same as 2 pi times 2, which is equal to 4 pi. Okay, so to make the table, we have first is 0, and then 4 pi. Between them is 0 plus 4 pi is 4 pi divided by 2 is 2 pi. Between 2 pi and 0 is pi, and then this is 3 pi. Okay. So, mo na siya karon ang ato substitute. And then, ang vertical asymptotes ana, we have 0, 2 pi, and 4 pi over 4 pi. Anong na may over? 0, 2 pi, and 4 pi because kuan man, when we replace x with 0, 0 ne. Diba? When we replace x with pi, mahimo ning pi over 2. Kani ma pi, kani ma 3 pi over 2. Kani mahimong 4 pi over 2 or 2 pi. So, di ba ang 0 nga sign kay na adin hidapita? Dapita. No, 0 nga sign. Kani mo ay 0 nga sign. Nabalik ko. Kani ang 0 nga sign. Kani din hidapita mo ni 1 o negative 1. So, therefore, for x equals 0, x equals 0 is 0. Then, 2 pi. And then 2 pi o 4 pi. No. 0, 2 pi, 4 pi. Diyan na dire dapit. Okay? So, from kani silbi mao ni mga 0 sila. Okay? So, manang 0, 2 pi, o 4 pi dire. Hindi na dapit. Okay? So, when x is pi, we have 1 on times 2 man, so manang 2. When x is 3 pi, it's negative 1. So, negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Okay, and this part here, nato siya i-broken because the values there of sign are zeros, and then kung atong i-reciprocal, mahimong undefined and atong cosecant. So, muna ni, graph dyan. Okay? So, mo ni ang value sa x, mo ni siya ang atong y. Okay? So, mo to. Okay, what about 3.3.7? We are going to sketch the graph of y equals 2 minus secant 2x. So, first thing to do is to sketch first the graph of y equals negative cosine of 2x. So, let us recall that for cosine, it has a period of pi because period kay 2 pi over the b, which is 2. So, therefore, we have pi na period for cosine 2x. Okay, so from there, we have 0 to pi, and then divide na to of ang atong values of x must be taken from 0 and pi. Then we have pi over 2. In between them is pi over 4. And between them is 3 pi over 4. Okay? So, ang imong y karon is 2 times 0 is 0. So, negative cosine, cosine of 2x. So, 2 times 0 is 0. So, negative cosine of 0 is, cosine of 0 is 1 times negative is negative 1. Then, y na pa man. Then, after pi over 4, so cosine of 2 times pi over 4, that will be pi over 2. So cosine there is 0 times negative is 0. Then pi over 2 times 2 is pi. Cosine of pi is negative times negative. Negative 1 times negative. So it becomes positive. Positive 1. Next is 3 pi over 4. So 2 times 3 pi over 4. So, makancel ang 2 4. Mahimo siyang 3 pi over 2. So 3 pi over 2, ang imong cosine there is 0 times negative is 0. And times nini mo og 2. So, mahimo 2 pi cosine there is 1 times negative. It becomes negative 1. So, imong i-graph, no? So, ang 0, negative 1 here. Next is pi over 4 is 0. Then 1 na po ang pi over 2. This is 3 pi over 4. And this is negative 1. And since maumanay nga part ang mga 0, so therefore, atong butangan ang broken line. So, karon kay naamantay di nga positive 2, ang atong buhaton is the same as nga graph, but we are going to move, ipasak ka na to, shift na to o 2 units upward. So, kung negative 1 ni dire, plus 2 units man ka, manang anhin na siya sa level 3. Ang kani kay negative 1 man, move kag 2 up. So, manang naana siya sa 1. Okay? So, mauna na siya graph. Okay? So, let us now proceed to tangent. Graphs of tangent and cotangent functions. So, let us recall that tangent x is the same as sine x over cosine x, where cosine x must not be equal to 0. So, from this definition, it follows that its domain is the same as the second function. No, nga dili dapat ang denominator man 0. Okay? So, ang iyang domain is all real numbers wherein cosine x must not be equal to 0. Or it is the same as the set containing x in the set of all real numbers wherein x is not equal to k pi over 2, where k is an odd integer. So, in this case, the period of tangent is pi over b. And then the vertical asymptotes is x equals plus minus pi over 2b. So in this case, So, we have to graph dirita mo sugod sa negative to positive. We have negative pi over 2. So, negative pi over 2, nga nga part kay ang cosine man is 0. So, that is why undefined atong tangent. Sa negative pi over 4, sa mga negative pi over 4, dire nga part. So, it is in the fourth quadrant. So, therefore, negative 1 ang atong tangent. That is, sine is negative square root of 2 over 2 over positive square root of 2 over 2. So, that is why we have negative 1. Okay? Ang pi over 3 po, dire, imong sine is negative square root of 3 over 2 over 1/2. Positive 1/2. So that's why this is negative square root of 3. And negative pi over 6 kanina part. Ang imo diha is negative 1/2 imong sine. Then square root of 3 over 2 imong cosine. So, cancel ang kani. Therefore, it's negative 1 over square root of 3 multiplied by square root of 3 over 3. Square root of 3. So, that is why we have negative square root of 3 over 3. Then, 0. Ang imong tangent for, because here we have sine is 0 and cosine is 1. So 0 over 1 is 0. Balik ka dire kung maunay dire ang pi over 6, pi over 4 o kuan puro man positive. So pwede ka to namin kopyaon si dire yung positive ni positive and undefined. Okay? So, pi over 2 atong gigamit ang asymptote sa first asymptote kay kani ang atong b when we say y equals tangent x, ang atong b is 1. So, pi over 2 times 1 is pi over 2. So, that is why we have negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. Sorry, na-discuss ganina. So, mo start ka sa kuan. Negative pi over 2 pa dong direct. Ano yung usa ka period niya? No? Okay. So, we have here for tangent. So, anak ka. Okay? The same manner, the graph of y equals cotangent x is shown in figure 3.31. So, pareha ra gihapon yung inyong buhaton sa nabali na po siya because ang imong bawal din imong domain ani is x is a real number such that sine x must not be equal to 0 because it's cotangent. So meaning the sine is in the denominator and the denominator must not be equal to 0. So pareha po siya sa cosecant. So asa nga part nga 0 ang cosine. Ang cosine niya 0 is naa sa negative pi over 2. Okay, so pi over 2. 0. Diha kay 0 over 1 man siya din niya sa pi over 2. Gani po 0 over negative 1. And then, kani nga part mo ni ang imong cosine are 0. So, baan na? Okay. Then, for 3.3.8, we are going to sketch the graph of y equals 1/2 tangent to x. So, in this case, the period is pi. Period na to kay pi over b, no? So, our b here is 2. So, that's why we have pi over 2. Atong period. And then, ang asymptotes is vertical asymptote is pi over 2 times our b is also 2. Therefore, it's pi over 4. So, meaning, gikan sa negative pi over 4, padong sa pi over 4. Mo ni siya nga part na undefined ang imong tangent. Yun ang nag-i-appeal. Okay. This part here, imong 0 ang imong tangent. Okay? So, when x is negative pi over 8, times 2 maninin mo. Times 2. So, mahimong negative pi over 4. So, sa negative pi over 4, we have here ang imong negative pi over 4 yun is negative 1 times 1/2. That is why we have negative 1/2. When x is 0, 2 times 0 is 0. 0 times 1/2 is also 0. Okay, so in 0 here, we have sine is 0 and cosine is 0. So 0 over 1 for tangent is 0. And then din i-times na po din mo of 2. So it's pi over 4. So in this case, tangent here in pi over 4 is 1. Then 1 times 1/2. So that is why we have 1/2. So undefined sila sa part nga between sa pi over 2 is 0, which is kanang pi over 4, negative pi over 4, and positive pi over 4. Then mag-0 siya sa when x is 0. Then ang pi over 8 is between mamana sa pi over 4 of 0. Negative 1/2, positive 1/2, and negative 1/2. Okay? So, more. Ang kani nga part, ang lain na po ng siya nga period. So, ang kani sa imong table, ang gipopos ra is kani siya nga part. Okay? Sige. Okay, next is we are going to sketch the graph of y equals 2 cotangent x over 3 on the interval 0, 3 pi, open interval 0, 3 pi. So, 3 pi is the period, right? Because we have atong formula kay pi over b. So, therefore, we have pi over 1/3, and that would be equal to 3 pi. That would be pi times 3 over 1. Okay, ang atong asymptotes kay cotangent man so x equals 0 o x equals 3 pi. Okay, so that would be in the formula, no, given sa katong ganina. Naawa sa engine. Refer laman mo sa libro. Dahil dito ang ubang. Okay. So, in in finding the values of x, we have 0 and 3 pi. In between them is 3 pi over 2, right? And between 3 pi over 2 and 0, it is 3 pi over 4. And between 3 pi over 2 and 3 pi is we have find the mean plus 3 pi. That would be 3 pi over 2 plus 6 pi over 2, and that would give us 9 pi over 2. Why not over 2? 2, 6 pi over 2. It's 9 pi over. Okay. Ito ba? 3 pi over 2. Okay. So, times 1/2 pa. Ay, over 2 pa jud ay ni. No, ay. Over 2 pa ni. Over 2 pa jud ni. So, ang kanang nga part is over 4. Average na ay. Kalimot ko. So, this is over 4. 9 pi over 4. Okay. So, 9 pi over 2 times 1/2 pa ka. So, that's why 9 pi over 4. So, asa man mag-undefine ang cotangent. So, ang cosine nga 0 naa sa 0 ba? 3 pi over 2. Diba? Undefined siya sa ang cotangent. So, sine na din nga part. So, sa 0, na-define ni, and 3 pi. Diba? We have 0, sa revolution, 2 pi, then 3 pi, dire. So, undefined na si dyan ang lapitan. Then, 0 si dyan, ani nga part, dire nga 3 pi over 2 kay your cosine here is 0 over 1 and sine is negative 1. So, this is 0. Okay. So, karon ang 3 pi over 4, it times minimo of 1/3. Pila naman. So, it's pi over 4. Ang say cotangent sa pi over 4. Pi over 4 is here. Tangent ni mo diha is positive 1 times 2 outside. So, mo na siyang positive 2. Then, 0 na ni. Kinana, nasabtan na no. Then, sa 9 pi over 4, it times ni mo of 1/3. Kay, na over 3 man na siya. It times ni mo ni 1/3. So, makancel ang 3. So, mahimo siyang 3 pi over 4. So, 3. 1, 2, 3 pi over 4 is here. Ang imong tangent here is, cotangent here is negative 1. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Okay? So, in that case, iposisyonin mo dire ang imong duha ka vertical asymptotes. Kani ug kani. Then, 0 ne. Then, when x is 3 pi over 4 mo na siyang positive 2. Ano siya? 9 pi over 4 po. Pa din siya. Okay. And this is now the graph. Okay? Okay. Okay, let's proceed to simple harmonic motion. So, repetitive or periodic behavior is common in nature, right? As an example, we have the time-telling device, which is known as sundial. So, ano siya ang sundial? Kani. Is a result of the predictable rising and setting of the sun every day. It consists of a flat plate and a gnomon. This is the gnomon. And as the sun moves across the sky, the gnomon casts a shadow on the plate, which is calibrated to tell the time of the day. So, position na dito, mo na ilang relo sa unang panahon. Okay, sundial. So, kani naaman na position na mo na siyang 2 o'clock na 2 p.m. So, then some motions are also periodic, like mag-jumping rope ka, mag-bike, magsikad-sikad. Okay, so daghan pa kaadyo nga situations wherein periodic ang motion. When a weight is suspended in a spring, pulled down and released, the weight oscillates up and down, di ba? Kung na-spring imong buhatan, mag-up and down, neglecting resistance, this oscillatory motion of the weight, its height is periodic with respect to time. Okay. So periodic motions are usually modeled by either sine or cosine functions and are called simple harmonic motions. And embedded movements of objects like oscillation, vibration, rotation, and motion due to real life occurrence that behaves in simple harmonic motions. Nagsaba na mong pinangga. So we have equations of simple harmonic motions. So the displacement of y, directed height or length of an object behaving in a simple harmonic motion with respect to time t is given by one of the following equations. So y equals a sine b of t minus c plus b, or y equals a cosine b of t minus c plus b. In both equations, we have the following informations. The amplitude or the absolute value of A is equal to 1/2 of maximum minus minimum. The maximum displacement above and below the rest position or central position or equilibrium, where M is the maximum, capital letter M is the maximum height, and M, the small letter m, is the minimum height. The period is the same as 2 pi over the absolute value of b. It is the time required to complete one cycle from one highest or lowest position point to the next. Frequency. It's the absolute value of b over all over 2 pi. It's the number of cycles per unit of time. And C is the responsible for the horizontal shift in time, and D is the responsible for the vertical shift in displacement. Okay, 3.3.10. We have here a weight is suspended from a spring and is moving up and down in simple harmonic motion. At start, the weight is pulled down 5 centimeters below in resting position and then released. After 8 seconds, the weight reaches its highest location for the first time. Find the equation of the motion. So notice that the longest position, the lowest position is equal to t was 0. No, ang lowest position ka na nag-rest silbi. And then we have, since it is below, we have down, we have 5 centimeters. So our y is -5 when t is equal to 0. So that's why we can create an equation which is y equals -5 cosine of bt. And then we have to use 1/2 of two pi over b, since, and this will be equal to 8. Okay, so 1/2 of 2 pi over b is equal to 8. So we can cancel the 2, and pi over b is equal to 8. So by cross multiplication, we have 8b equals pi, or b is equal to pi over 8. So since b is pi over 8, we just simply substitute our b here with pi over 8. That's why we can create an equation which is y equals -5 cosine of pi t over 8. Okay, so that would be the required equation. Okay, next is example 3.3.11. Suppose you ride a Ferris wheel. Ganahan na ba ito masakay, no? Pero malurong ko masakay ko. The lowest point of the wheel is 3 meters off the ground, and its diameter is 20 meters. After it started, the Ferris wheel revolves at a constant speed, and it takes 32 seconds to bring you back again to the riding point. After riding for 150 seconds, find your approximate height above the ground. Okay, so let us first ignore the fixed value of 3 meters of the ground. So later na to siya ulit. And assume that the central position passes through the center of the wheel and is parallel to the ground. And then let t be the time in seconds elapsed that you have been riding the Ferris wheel, and y is the directed distance of your location with respect to the assumed central position at time t. So in this part here, since the diameter of the Ferris wheel is 20, so meaning the radius is 10. So from the center, gikan sa imong gisak dyan, so makaingon ta nga ang y equals -10 when t is 0. So pag start pa, imong y dito is -10, right? So that is why we can have y is equal to -10 cosine bt. Okay, so in that case, this would be t must be greater than or equal to 0 divided negative. So since the next period is 32 seconds sa kalibot, so ang 2b or 2 pi over b is equal to 32. Okay, there's a period niya. So 2 pi equals 32b, giving us b equals 2 pi over 32. Okay, therefore we can say that b is equal to pi over 16. So, replacing nato na diri ang b, which is pi over 16. Thus, we can say that y is equal to negative 10 cosine pi t over 16. When t is equal to 150, replace na natin t 150. So, y therefore is equal to negative cosine of 150 pi over 16. Okay? Or ma-reduce man eh. So, pwede nag-negative 10 ang cosine of 75 pi over 8 by 2, diba? Or approximately, okay, a signal buoy in Laguna Bay bobs up and down with the height of its transmitter in feet above sea level, modeled by h of t is equal to a sine bt plus b at time t in seconds. During a small squall, its height varies from 1 feet to 9 feet above the sea level, and it takes 3.5 seconds from 9 feet high to the next. Find the values of the constants a, b, and t. So in this case, we learned that the minimum small letter m is equal to 1 and the capital letter M is 9. 9 feet in 1 feet. 1 foot. So we have to get the amplitude. We are to use the formula given ganina na 1/2 of quantity capital letter M minus small letter m equals 1/2 of 9 minus 1, or equal to 1/2 of 8, which is equal to 4. Okay. Then from the statement, it takes 3.5 seconds from 9 feet height, 9 foot height to the next. The period is 3.5. So that's why we can say that 2 pi over b is equal to 3.5, giving us b is equal to 2 pi over 3 1/2 or 7 over 2, which can be simplified to 2 pi times 2 over 7, which give us the value 4 pi over 7. So that's why our b is 4 pi over 7. So lowest point, 1 foot above, and the amplitude is 4. So to get the d is simply the same as amplitude plus the minimum value. So that's why we can have the amplitude is 4 plus the minimum value of 1. So therefore the d is 5. So therefore we can say that our a is 4, our b is 4 pi over 7, and d is 5. Okay. Okay, in example 3.3.13, we have this one. A variable star is a star whose brightness fluctuates as observed from Earth. So the magnitude of visual brightness of one variable star ranges from 2.0 to 10.1, and it takes 332 days to observe one maximum brightness to the next. Assuming that the visual brightness of the star can be modeled by equation y equals a sine b of t minus c plus d. T in days, putting t equals 0 at the time when the star is at its maximum brightness. Find the constants a, b, c, and d, where a and b are greater than 0 and c is the least non-negative number possible. So in order to find the a, again, we are going to use the formula 1/2 of maximum minus minimum. So the maximum is 1/2 of maximum is 10.5 and 10.1. So 10.1 minus 2.0. So this will give us 1/2 of 8.1, which is equal to 4.05. So this will be your A. And then, so since it takes 332 para ma-complete na po ang next cycle, we are to consider that 2 pi over b, which is the formula of the period, equals 332. So thus, we can say that 332b, b is equal to 2 pi, and giving us b equals 2 pi over 332, which is the same as pi over 166. Okay. And our d is equal to amplitude plus the minimum value. So the amplitude nato kay 4.05 plus na to 2.0. Thus our d is 6.05. So for the ordinary sine function to start, at the highest point at t equals 0, the least possible horizontal movement to the right positive value is 3 pi over 2 units. So that's why we can have ang BC nimo mo imong i-equate to 3 pi over 2. Then, pwede imong replace na ang bidaan og pi over 166 c equals 3 pi over 2. So, by cross multiplication, we have 2 pi c equals 3 pi times 166. Divide ang both sides of 2 pi. So, cancel ang 2 pi. C therefore is cancel po ang pi. Then 166 divided by 2 is 83. So, 3 times 83. So, C therefore is 249. So in this case, our A is 4.05, our B is pi over 166, our C is 249, and our D is 6.05. Okay, so that's all, and we will continue na po sa lain na part aning problems, more solved examples on page 165 up to 169. There are 10 problems to be discussed pa. Okay, so thank you for listening. Wala na nag-apil lang usa ka ka. Bugat na ka ninyo. Okay, thank you. And see you na po sa next na part. Thank you and God bless you all. Bye!